Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're joining us for Connected Safety. My name is Nicole Bamford, and I'm the moderator for today's event. On behalf of Leslie and the team, we thank you for joining us. This presentation, Connected Safety, Starting the Journey for Success, will be given by Gustavo Lopez, General Manager for Detection and Connected Services at MSA, the safety company. And his presentation promises to be well worth the listen. Before we get started, here are some quick administrative points. During the webinar, if you have questions for Gustavo, please submit them in the Q&A box on your screen, and these will be answered during the question portion of the session. Likewise, for any technical issues, please write them into the Q&A box and we'll get to them right away. The widgets on your screen can be resized and dragged around for your viewing preferences. We encourage you to visit the Resource Center on your screen for additional content and resources we and our sponsors have provided for you. So make sure you're sitting comfortably, and I'll now hand it over to Gustavo so we can begin.
Thank you, and good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Glad to be here with everybody here. Wish the format be a little different so I'd get a little bit more feedback on the presentation, read the room, and be able to tailor it better for you. But really glad to be here and talk to you about a topic that I'm very, very passionate about. So, connected safety, just safety in general, is certainly something that's top of mind for us, more so now than ever after living through the pandemic that we certainly are living with. And, just a little about myself and why I am passionate about safety. I've been in this industry for a little over 17 years now. Starting out as an R&D engineer, designing some of the products and services that many of our customers, enjoy today, and I've been able to experience the gamut both from a design perspective and now in a management side of things as to why safety is important, what it means to an organization, and the troubles and the challenges that everybody deals with in implementing a world-class safety program. And, with that in mind, I'd like to start with a short poll question just to kind of get a sense of how the folks in the room are managing their safety programs today. So the poll question is, how are keeping your worker safety records and controls? And I'd just like to understand whether you're doing it manually or automated and connected through a cloud or an EHS software tool. I'll give a couple seconds here. And let's move on to the poll results. So interesting, and it's great to see 70% of you are already in the cloud or using some form of automated tool, and 30% of you or so are looking obviously at your processes today and where we're going to go. So this is going to be a good conversation, hopefully, and I'll hit some of the high notes on some of the things that we see in terms of industry trends and the challenges where we are within the industry. So if we take a look at where we are and everything within this, and I think that a lot of these pressure points certainly have been accelerated through the pandemic as everything's just become a heck of a lot more difficult. But the way that we look at it, and just based on all the information and data that we collect, you really have a very diverse working force. So you're talking about, there's a brain drain of, certain folks are in the retirement phase. You're bringing in new folks into it that may not have the experience within some of these safety programs. So talking about 3 to 4 different generations, cultures, communication styles, expectations, they're all changing. So as this workforce transition is happening, training and developing a safety culture is really top of mind, as we see from our information. And having availability to the data is obviously clear. So again, I'm glad to see 70% of you are already using automated tools. I think that gets you one step closer to that. But how you learn from that information, how you drive to a behavior-based safety component is really, really critical. And last but not least, you really have these regulations and compliance space. So this is an area that certainly is continuing to evolve, and it's quite complicated as it deals with what personal protective equipment you should be using, to how you should comply with all the different regulations from a data security perspective and everything within those lines. So these are just some quick statistics that we pulled out over what's happening. And quite frankly, the global results of what's going on in the business and from a safety perspective just aren't good. They're not where we want it to be, right? Nobody wants to have a lost time incident. Nobody wants to have, obviously, a death in the workplace. And this first two stats that are here are pretty mind-boggling when you really think about it. So roughly 2.8 million people die every year in the workplace as a result of an occupational accident or work-related disease. And 374 million people have non-fatal occupational accidents a year. These are global numbers, so this would be a lost time incidents. These are all statistics from the International Labor Organization. So, and what's interesting is when you peel the onion a little bit, about 80% of those serious injuries, at least in the United States, are attributed to human error, based on a survey done by Safety, Health, and Health magazine. This is, we weren't able to get some good global data on this, but I would expect that this information is pretty consistent what you would see around the world. And, one of the main reasons for that is worker safety is pretty complicated. So you talk about, do you have the right PPE? So going back to the regulations, our company manufactures hard hats, and you'd be surprised with the amount of different type of hard hats and regulations that you have to meet based on the application. Same thing with fall protection harnesses, even gloves, everything within this, right? And then you also got to make sure that, the personal protective equipment has been ready to use, has it been inspected? Is it going to do the job that you requires it to do at the time that you need it? Who has the personal protective equipment? A lot of folks obviously have groups of teams that you're sending out to the workforce. Do they all have the right PPE at the right time? Is the PPE being used correctly? I think this is something that you see often. A lot of things that there's a lot of training issues. We see from a lot of our customers. One of the first instinctive nature when you see an alarm on one of your gas detectors or any type of protective equipment, there is human nature is just to either silence the alarm or shut it off because you just don't trust it. So there's a lot to that, and making sure that you build that culture within that. And then also, when should you replace it, right? So you use these products, you buy them once. A lot of times they'll use it for 5-10 years, making sure that they're inspected and they're within the compliance sector, so that you can actually use it, and again, it will perform the job that you need it to in case something bad were to happen. And our view, and I think certainly the view of many others in the industry, is that having connected systems, having connectivity certainly can help. We bucket these things into 4 critical aspects of it, or buckets of areas where you can certainly get some help with that. So seamless safety compliance. So again, this goes back into, are you meeting the right regulations, all the ISO standards or FM standards, or whatever standards you may have, or just your internal SOPs, standard operating procedures. Are you doing all those? How do you make sure that all of that is not only bubbling down to the worker side, but also up through the C-suite, since again, safety is becoming top of mind for everybody within an organization. Then you go down a layer to active safety monitoring. So it's one thing to do all the prep work and all the audits and everything that you have going on, so that you ensure that the safety program is going to be working. But you're getting into, as the people are doing doing work in the field, how do you ensure that you're actively being able to monitor their actions, what they're doing, and ensure that everybody's going to come home safely? This then leads into, again, safety journey management, when you're taking all the audits, everything that you've done in there, to also the real-time feedback, and then the post-event or post 8-hour work shift feedback of what's going on, so you can have better understanding and continue to train and build that safety culture, leading into our personal wellness and productivity. Certainly health, my own health and everybody's health through this mess that we've been kind of living through has never been more top of mind. And you also see it with the prevalence of folks wearing health devices like Fitbits, even Apple Watches and things like that. Well, it's not that different when you're in the workplace, right? So I think as you as you look at this, I think our connected systems really can help you with that. Which leads me to my second poll question of the day, which is, has your budget changed to accommodate connected solutions? I saw that again, 70% of you are using this. So I would look at, now that you're using that, is the budget continuing to increase? Do you have no budget? Has the budget decreased, budget neutral, and budget increase? And certainly very interested to understand this, as I imagine that the pandemic has had some form of effect of this, if anything, just on the visibility of everybody's safety programs. So let's go down to the results. So interesting. It's good to see that nobody got their budget slashed, but it's also surprising that a third of you have no budget to accommodate the solution. So I'm assuming that this means that you have to find a way to do your connected solutions with kind of what you have right now. And it kind of correlates well to how many of you are doing this in pen and paper. And interesting, 60% of you budget neutral and 8% budget increase. So it's interesting. We're all being asked to do more with less. So this isn't surprising as I kind of look at this. And one area that we certainly help our customers with, and we see a lot about this, and a lot of these really evolving, is to really explain what is the benefit to everybody, right? Not just the workers, but also the C-suite and the folks making the connections, of having a real-time or a connected worker system. So what are the data there? And so reducing human error, I think, is one that is pretty key. I mean, again, if you go back to that one of those first stats that I shared with you, 80% of the challenges are based on human error. So that's a big part that you can certainly decrease. Increasing productivity, time efficiency, and cost efficiency. I'm bucketing all those into one area. Certainly there is an ROI to that. We've had customers, one in particular in a utility within the United States, that just by going to a connected system and having more automation around the testing, maintenance, and management of the fleet of gas detection devices, they've been able to generate about 70% cost reductions within their systems based on what they were previously able to do, while also increasing their uptime. While the testing and things like that used to take 3-4 minutes, it's now done within 30 seconds, and all the records are stored, and they're able to do backtrack analysis with everything within that. So that all goes down to ROI. So for those of you who are having a hard time justifying a budget increase, there's certainly tools like that you can go after specific issues and show that there is an ROI in safety as well, especially as you consider how many accidents and how many lost time incidents you have within a facility. Safety of workers, I think that's pretty key and prevalent for everybody here. Enhancing decision making, 24/7 monitoring of assets, that is certainly important. We all want to, again, do more with less, be efficient with what we have, and last but not least, preventing some of the harmful incidents that we have within that. And just to showcase this, I'm going to show a 2-minute clip of what this means from the safety manager's perspective. I think it does a really nice job of illustrating the power of having connectivity within your safety systems. So hopefully this works.
This is Jim, a safety manager who is committed to keeping his workers safe, no matter how complicated the process might be. This is also Jim. He subscribes to Safety IO Grid Services. He likes to keep workers safe too, but without complications. Jim rises early to drive 48 miles to a remote well just to collect some gas detection compliance and log data, while Jim continues his restful sleep. Jim starts his trek to the office, while Jim is rising to kick off his day. When he arrives at the office, Jim struggles to read what he wrote down in the dark, while Jim fires up his grid account and instantly knows where he needs to focus his attention. Jim tries to get focused while fighting through interruptions, while Jim is alerted by the grid that the MSA Altair IO 360 at one of his job sites are in alarm. He assesses the situation and uses the grid to push an evacuation to the team. As Jim collects incident details from his on-site supervisor, his grid account continues to record gas readings so Jim can quickly complete an incident report. Meanwhile, Jim receives an emergency phone call about a developing situation but has no real information to work with. Frustrated, Jim grabs his gear and drives out to the site. Confident that all is safe, Jim uses his grid account to review his gas detection fleet health. Seeing that a few pieces of equipment are due for maintenance, he sends a quick message to the responsible site manager to check those detectors before they are put into service. Jim finally returns from his site visit and starts the incident report paperwork. That evening, Jim easily confirms that his fleet is free of concerns, so he packs up and heads home. Meanwhile, Jim tries to get through his email when yet another interruption comes through. As work sites get more complex, management of worksite safety and maintenance grow in complexity too. And that's why you need grid services from Safety.io, a software subsidiary of MSA, the safety company. The grid provides a suite of integrated fleet management and live site monitoring software tools, engineered to help you focus on your safety goals instead of safety problems. Empower your safety program with Safety.io Grid services today.
Great. So that does a nice job of explaining some of the things that I was talking about, and leads me to the next part of the presentation, where I like to just have an understanding here of what are the safety KPIs that can most quickly and significantly be improved by connectivity. So worker training, non-compliant use of PPE, incidents or near misses, or corrective action velocity. Give a couple of seconds here, and then let's go to the results page. So no results. So maybe I wasn't there for that long. In the sake of time, I am going to just keep going. I think there's certainly a lot we have seen within our systems and services. That each and every one of these can be certainly tracked and can be improved by having connectivity. I was just curious on which one you thought was the most prevalent for your part of the organization. So as you look at connectivity and how we like to think about it, how you can do it right, it is a journey. The starting point has to be very, very strategic. I think one of the things that we see from our customers is it certainly is hard to go after, every single problem you have within a facility and try to solve them all at once. So where you start and how you pick it, and having a checklist of what you're trying to achieve, I think is very, very important. And as you look at this journey, you certainly want to celebrate small successes. Again, I think when I see our customers and the ones that I feel have had the most success and impact by implementing such connected type of services or safety programs within their facilities, they're the ones that started out small, maybe with a very high risk area, and do it with a small, very controlled part of the business. As you kind of migrate that to other parts of the business, celebrate all the successes, learn along the way, and taking one step at a time. I think sounds pretty logical, but I think when you look at all the things you can do within safety, and knowing that all those budgets are always under question, I think that's a really, really, really smart way to start. So again, you have limited time, limited resources, so focus on higher risk, where you're going to have the most meaningful results. I think that's a pretty easy way that we tend to recommend to our customers and what we see in the industry. It's also important to ask about, ask the right questions about the entire ecosystem. So anything around your PPE, whether or not they're reliable, durable, easy to use, so forth, making training a little bit easier. Connectivity, is it straightforward to connect? What may you have in a facility? How can you get the information out there, since obviously there's IT systems at times involved? What can you expect from the data? Is the data safe and secured? Certainly cybersecurity and all of those things are becoming more and more important, as we all know from some of the hacking attacks that recently happened a couple of throughout the year. So there's certainly certifications that you can look at from a system level to make sure that the systems that you're using comply with that. and also looking at the suppliers and what is the vision, are things going to get better over time, and so forth. So again, making a connected safety service successful, I think, when you look at it, we certainly take into consideration how data informed you are, and how that data can empower you to make some of those decisions. I think there's, data gets tossed around a lot, and I think it is important how you consolidate information into something that makes some sense. Having an intuitive software, the user interface, and how you're able to leverage the most out of it. And lastly, but not least, certainly protecting critical data. So I mentioned some of the certifications out there from a cybersecurity. I think I would look for solutions that are ISO 27001 certified. There's a whole host of things that you have to go through to make sure that that's the case. And when you get to that level, you really are best in class. So as you look at MSA and the connected work platform that we have, that we offer to our customers, you have connected work sites, connected workers, or connected workflows, and all of those need to work in concert with one another. So when we look at the amount of products and personal protective equipment that we push out to our customers on a daily basis, one of the things that's clear is that how you use them all together. Some of those products were designed years ago without a heck of a lot of connectivity. So bringing them to life so that we make the problems, and solutions aware for our customers are really important. So you'll see us continue to invest in these areas as we, help our customers go through the journey of, connectivity and getting you to zero lost time incident, which really is our goal. So currently, within the services that we do offer, we have sister products, if you will. We have the industrial grid, which you saw the video there of all the things that it can do. We certainly are looking at growing that and including additional type of industrial personal protective equipment. And then for our firefighters, and we have a fire grid, which does the same thing for some of our fire service products with self-contained breathing apparatus. And again, our goal is supporting our fire service customers or fire departments in a very similar way to get to the industrial customers. So we have kind of the unique advantage that we're able to understand both markets really well and take shared learnings that we have, whether it's from the first responder world and bringing it to the industrial world, or vice versa, from the industrial world to the fire service side of the business. So with that in mind, I'd like to thank everybody for the time. And this is certainly an area that I'm very, very passionate about. And hopefully you can hear it in my voice. Again, I'd love to get some of the more direct feedback live, but we all know the world we live in right now. So, with that in mind, I'd like to open it up for Q&A for the remaining time.
Great. Thanks, Gustavo. So we do have some questions here, and we do have some time. So if anyone else in the audience has some questions, please submit them. First question is, I'm in construction. What area of connectivity would you suggest to start with limited resources and time?
So that's interesting, right? So construction obviously gets really, really crunched. So we just did a big construction project here within MSA where we built a new manufacturing center within the facility here. And I can tell you, I would probably look at worker training and compliance. I think one of the things that I would be looking at is making sure that the maintenance and all the equipment that folks are using are actually valid. So one of the problems that we see and hear a lot is fall protection. I mean, I think one of the number one cited issue from OSHA is falls and trips. So I would really look at making sure that people have inspections done on their fall protection program, on the fall protection harnesses, and making sure that everybody has that. I think if you take it a step further, and I think you'll see solutions in the future about this, is ensuring that people are actually, when they're working at heights, are tied off. I would say that that's probably an area that I could see a lot of benefit in you taking a look at and focusing on.
Great, thank you. Next question we have is, you mentioned that connectivity is a journey and the starting point is a strategic decision. What would be a good place to start connected safety and why?
Yeah, so I mean, you saw a lot of the examples here that we have, and they certainly, they feel and are somewhat gas detection centric. I think when you look at portable gas detection, it's a pretty easy place to start. It makes makes a great deal of sense. I think when you look at, confined spaces, for example, that makes up for about 50% of the reported injuries. And I know it's a big challenge, and gas detection plays a really, really big role there. These are products that certainly are connected. They require maintenance, and there's a lot of regulations behind it. So that's a pretty easy place to start. You can get a nice ROI by just having a much more connected gas detection program, and you can then start to use that to lead into a little bit more of additional things with maintenance, or bringing other personal protective equipment into the mix as well.
Great, thank you. Next question is, why is the ISO 27001 certification important in connected safety?
So, it's important, right? So we're talking about people's information. So, and a lot of times, again, it goes back to the worker health and wellness. It gets into that, and then you compound that with a lot of the things that you see, and that we've seen from hackers recently getting into, and blocking some of the facilities that we saw with some of the pipelines there. So that ISO certification really guarantees that the company that's providing you the system or their service has a comprehensive information security framework. And really what that means is that, there's two reasons why that certification really is important. So you can protect your sensitive data. So that could be obviously your worker health and safety. So if people are being exposed to hazardous gases during a particular part of their job, you obviously make sure that those are secure, but also the data integrity. So, one of the things that does happen is once there is an incident, you need to be able to go back and you need to be able to maintain those records for quite some time, and they need to make sure that they're not tampered with and so forth. We're talking about some critical set of information here. So as you look at it from the safety manager's perspective, just making sure that when you are, investing in a platform that it has that certification, I think it would just help you kind of get to the next step, and just give you that peace of mind that the platform really takes care of all the things that it really should.
Great, thank you. Next question we have is, what is the max amount of time to replace personal fall protection when it is not visibly damaged?
The maximum amount of time, I think that depends obviously on the harnesses that or the piece of fall protection equipment that you have. I think in some cases, I've seen some harnesses last 6 months. I've seen some harnesses last a year. I would go to the manufacturer and just look at that recommendation. I think that is one of the challenges with fall protection, because visual inspection sometimes only gets you so much, and sometimes the webbing and things like that is what's the issue there. It may not be visibly to see, but for the most part, you see recommendations 6 months to a year, depending on the type of product that you're really using.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Gustavo, for your very informative webinar this morning. For those in the audience, if you want to listen again, this webinar will be available on demand shortly. And finally, thank you to you, wherever you are, for taking the time to listen in. We look forward to having you on the next session, starting in just a few moments. And again, thank you so much, Gustavo, for your presentation today.
Thanks, everybody. Have a safe day, and hopefully the talk was informative. Thank you so much.